So we're back to the next session. I would like to introduce you Philipp Sonnleitner, founder and chief innovation officer, and from MikeMe, former CEO, now chief innovation officer. We might talk about this also a bit later. He has achieved something which a lot of people don't achieve in their life. Out of his passion, what he loves, he plays piano, he plays other instruments. He's really developed his true product. With that, of course, he's recognized some problems in the market. He's seen some use cases, and that was the foundation of founding MikeMe. Yeah? He got his experience also from working at a company called AKG, at the time producing microphones. It was part of Harman company. Harman, best good known also from Harman Kardon in the cars, which belongs to Samsung right now. Philipp has an amazing drive. He loves Apple products, and he wants his products to be really like Apple-like products. Yeah. And we also have here one of the MikeMes, one of the products that Philipp is producing. We ordered it there. It exactly feels like an Apple experience. The way we ordered it, the way it was received, the way it was packaged. So really, you're really following that line. And I think that's going to be also interesting in our conversation also later with Zod, our chief supply manager, who has been working for 11 years at Apple, to really see how you managed with 8 or 10 employees to do that versus 150,000 at Apple. One point that we discussed last week together, and is one sense that you really mentioned, is hardware is hard. Yeah, really meaning that it's really tough to develop a hardware product. Yeah, you need a lot of endurance. But once you're in there, he doesn't want to discourage anyone. It's really tough to start, but once you go there and you pitfalls, but you learn from the pitfalls, it's really something to go ahead. Yeah. And one last point of Philipp, which is very impressive, is a real startup entrepreneur, because he did not only start his company, he started at the very same time a family. So he raised 3 children next to his company. I think this is double work that really truly makes you a startup or serial entrepreneur in that sense. Yeah. So please, we'll have a small video now to start to see the products. It's about 1.5 to 2 minutes, and then we go on to the Q&A session.
Content creator, journalist, filmmaker. Labels don't matter. What's important is your story. Say hello to MikeMe Pocket, the world's first fail-safe audio recorder and clip-on microphone that wirelessly connects to your phone. Focus on your story and never worry about audio again. If you shoot videos with your smartphone, you'll love MikeMe Pocket for creating short social content.
Hey guys, we're at Lighthouse Festival hanging out in the sun and testing the new MikeMe mic.
It delivers the best sound for your social stories because you pick up the sound right at the source. Plus, the audio is automatically in sync with your smartphone video. With the dedicated MikeMe app, you post directly from your phone. You'll be done within minutes.
It's so important that everything I bring is very lightweight. So I don't bring any of this audio. I'm just bringing 2 MikeMe Pockets and the phone that I already have on me, and I'm good to go.
Even in challenging shooting situations, MikeMe Pocket is your go-to audio device.
The most important thing for documentaries is actually that I don't have to worry about audio. It just has to be plug and play and work because I'm actually busy filming. It's really, really practical because I'm controlling the audio through my phone. I'm leveling here and I can hear what he's saying. And now I have my hands free. It's also recording on the device itself, so it's fail-proof. It has a double backup already.
What's more, you can handle multiple MikeMe bits at the same time with just one phone. MikeMe Pocket will transform the way you film. For live streams, there's no need for big equipment or big teams anymore.
We're here to talk about our new product, the MikeMe Pocket.
We're here to talk about our new product, the MikeMe Pocket.
With the MikeMe Pocket, you can share your content easily and quickly to the world. Stream live to your social channels without losing any audio quality. MikeMe Pocket. Reliable, smart, compact. Give your story the sound it deserves.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great video. Great introduction to your product.
Thanks a lot. Still loving to see it.
No, it's it really explains it very well, and has the right emotions as well. So it's really cool.
Cool.
So Philip, let's start. What was the trigger that really started to start MicMe, to start to develop these products? What in your eyes was missing at the time when you look at the microphones market, that this product that you've been developing really was missing out in this world?
So I try to make this very short because maybe that's more interesting, but it actually started with this piano here. So I'm back then, like in 2013, I worked for a big company called AKG, a big Austrian company, microphone manufacturer, as a product manager. I started there as software engineer, so I knew how to do it, how to record professionally audio. So I studied that, I did a product for that, and still it was kind of a mess, the process of how you record sound. There's a lot of microphones, cables, drivers, computers, like what a professional system is involved. So my idea was I only had like 1 or 2 hours a month to record music, because at that time I had small kids. Now they're a little bit bigger, same size as me now as they grew older. But back then I had no time. So it took me too long to set up all the things, and it was just a very frustrating feeling. So basically I'm normally here at every startup school, every session. So there's two choices: whether you make a product for yourself because you know the use case, or some people say the other 50% of the advice say, don't build a product for yourself, because then you fall into the trap. You build because the founder is so much in love with the product, and both are actually right. So I think maybe as a founder you're one or the other. So I fall in this category, saying I built something for myself. So that was the first product. A microphone works with the smartphone. So basically the vision is that basically every digital content should have exceptional sound. So how can you capture great sound in the smartphone age? And that was the big point. But took obviously a little bit longer than expected. Was the starting point.
Yeah, we just spoke to Niels. It does always take longer and need the iterations, but those iterations have to be fast, because otherwise as a startup, normally the budget is not as big as maybe larger companies have, so we have to go this way. Yeah.
I appreciated the talk with Neil, so I can 100% agree. But as I always mention, software is different than hardware. So depending on what you mean by fast in terms of software, we are super slow. So we are like dinosaurs in the hardware business. Even if there's new technology, fast in hardware means like months of developments. Like fast in software is days of development. So if you can do it in months, as Niels explained, like in 9 months, bring a new product to the market, that's already lightning fast, in my opinion. I mean, like from idea to ship product. And we did this once with our new product, which we were already happy, like in 9 months, putting out something in the market is actually quite fast. It helps to reduce cost.
Exactly. So you just mentioned the combination of software and hardware. You need to combine both in today's world. There's not one thing or the other thing, but still hardware is always there, right? We will always sit in something, in a plane, in a car, use some products, so they will never disappear. So we just have to learn how to do this faster and quicker. But then again, you have upgrades, right? You cannot upgrade a faulty part,
Yeah, I mean, as we discussed last week, so the beautiful thing, what we've seen, so our product, so this is an open one. So this is the first product without the metal housing, if you might see this. It's beautiful packaging. Or maybe you see this one. So we won a lot of design prizes for that. And people actually still love to touch things. So the beautiful thing for hardware is you can touch it, same as with Neil's glasses. So you basically put it, you can extend, you can add new features to the physical world. And the cool thing for hardware is it's kind of a lot of hardware devices, especially IoT stuff, is like an interface between the physical and the digital world. And as much as our software, so what we try to solve is to bring together those two things. Like sound is a physical thing, so it's audio waves going through air, and you try to bring them into the digital world with smartphones. So how can one make a digital TikTok content video as fast as possible with good sound? And that's the challenge we try to solve, without being the user a professional audio engineer. So making it professional and still making it easy to use. That was what we always try to fix, or what we try to solve. Actually say try. So the cool thing is it's kind of an interface. You can touch it. People really love to touch things. Actually, I always have to admit, and I don't want to be too negative for maybe the founders out there, but the bad part about hardware, it's hardware. So you have to physically move things from A to B. There's new technology like 3D printing or additive manufacturing. Still, you have, once you sold it, just this week, I had again a major fuck up. We finally produced it. A dealer bought a whole bunch of devices. Finally, we made some money. They already sent the money over. And then you fail, at least for a week, in just shipping the box because there's a battery in and something with the certification or the documents was wrong. So you made it, but at the very last stage of just shipping it from A to B, you may fail. So that is not a case with software because the delivery, the logistics is quite easy. You just download something. So you don't have to care about that. So, but still hardware is a beautiful thing because you can touch it, you can feel it, and it can do things software never can do. So it can interact with the real world, which is a cool thing.
Exactly. I mean, you mentioned also it's hard, right? So it's really to get there. But on the other hand, you also build a barrier of entry. Like the barrier of entry.
Yeah, so it's the best. Niels also said like it's the best copy protection you can build.
Exactly. But then you have to go the way, right? So you start walking, you have no barrier. Once you start working with the hardware, you do the mistakes, you do the corrections, then you build this barrier of entry. Yeah.
Yeah, and
just to understand, I mean, you just mentioned you had a few failures on the way or fuck-ups, as you mentioned it. What was one that you would say, wow, that's so stupid, I wouldn't do it again, right? I mean, that really we learned out of it, and we also changed this internally to really improve that.
It's always easy afterwards, as they say, right? So right now I know. So I would say, in general speaking, so we have a product which is a mobile product. So it's battery powered, it works wirelessly with your smartphone, which is the biggest challenge. So it's kind of an IoT mobile device. So it's not durable because it's bigger, like the new product is as big as that. So that's the pocket. Still, all those basic features. So if you build a product, you very much think about, oh, I want to build like a clip-on microphone. I had this idea, we had this idea like a couple of years ago, like 3 years ago. You want to build this, the cable and what the actual product features. But what's very important is also like the basic, the foundation of the product features, meaning charging, what's the housing, battery, firmware upgrades, and those kind of things, which are not as interesting as building like a wireless transmission and a fancy technology kind of thing. And one of those features was the biggest fuck up we ever had. Like, this is battery charging. Sounds quite easy. We developed it in 2014, and back then that was quite easy. Oh, this chargeable device, and it needs to run out of batteries. Sounds quite easy, but making a battery-powered device is quite, at least we have overseen the battery charging regime we built in the PCB. So it actually lost battery power over time, even if it was switched off, because we always charged it. We always tested our 20 devices. So we've not seen that over 10 days, it completely discharged, even if it was switched off. And imagine you build so our first Kickstarter campaign was 2,000 pieces. So we built them, we shipped the first 50 pieces, and when they arrived after 2 weeks of the shipping process, they were completely discharged and never turned on again. And we were already in the process of building 2,000 of them. So we nearly went into building 2,000 fault devices. Luckily enough, we decided to first ship and see what happened. Against the suggestion of our manufacturer, who said, like, let's build the 2,000. We said, no, let's just build 50 and see what happens. And that's exactly what Niels said. So you have to be very conscious and do one step after the other. Don't sometimes you just rush. And that's also learning, rush too fast because you think we have to deliver. Those other 2 weeks or a month don't really count. If you're in the phase, it seems like we need to rush, we need to deliver, maybe you don't run out of money, or you need to go into certification, or you have a big customer or whatever. But unfortunately, with a lot of hardware devices, even if Niels said like you can change a lot, but once you ship the product, in a lot of cases, you cannot change it afterwards. I mean, you can change the firmware and upgrade those kind of things, but you cannot change easily the battery, right? So if it's an expensive device, hard to manufacture, you're losing a lot of money. And every time you do that, you're losing maybe 10, 20, 50, maybe 100, 200K. And that's pretty tough and maybe is ruining your idea company. So take the time and think about this, and one step after the other. And we did this, don't try to scale right away just because of the bill of material. First, it might be ridiculously expensive to manufacture, but it's better to ridiculously be expensive on 50 or 100 devices and make sure it works, and then maybe 500 devices and then 2,000. We were shooting for 150,000 and was completely insane back in 2004. Now we're a little bit more wise, but it took some time to figure that out. Sounds quite easy.
One of the learnings, but I found it very funny that you're actually using your customers, at least only 50, to test the market. So
because Thomas,
and then
you cannot always test everything in-house. As I said, this is a very good example actually, because we were roughly testing. We were so much into the product. I'm a product manager, my team, like how the wireless transmit is done, how the audio quality of the device is, because it's a microphone, right? So we're not really testing the battery charging, because this is battery charging. This is like a firmware update. Who cares about firmware update? Actually, turns out firmware updates, bootloader, and stuff like that is important. My CTO spent months of writing a bootloader, and I was like saying, we need to build the software features, not the bootloader. He said, but what if we will update the bootloader? I said, yeah, we write that once and we're never going to do that. Turns out 3 months later, we had to update the bootloader because there was one use case which I don't even remember what it was. So it's very often those very boring development things and features. And if you overlook them, maybe you get faster to the fancy, shiny, sexy features like wireless transmission in our case. But then you spend maybe 6 months or a good portion of your life, in my case, 8 years, of fixing things which you should have spent like 2 months, 6 years ago, and making your life way easier, more cost efficient, faster. Just because you were rushing down the street. And I completely get that this sounds ridiculous easy and straightforward. Unfortunately, with hardware, if you build 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 pieces, it might kill your company or your product.
Well, that's a risk that you're running into. One thing that really strikes me, I mean, you really approach the Apple approach product, like the way you sell, the way you package and everything, but you still... Well, 8 or 10 employees that you are?
Yeah, we're really small. We're still like, for a hardware company, we're still 8 people. So it's kind of strange that we even made it that far with 8 people. So it needs a lot of dedication by the team over the years to make that. And I can remember in the meetings, we were set a goal. So we want to be as good as Apple, which is kind of sounds strange. And then everyone in the team, they appreciated that. Turn out that, but that also meant that for the die-cast house, for example, we right away, what Neil said, we spent exactly 100,000 euros upfront just to make one like this mainframe thing, with basically no funding at all. We had like 500,000 euros. So we spent a fifth of that money just for the thing and just the electronics and the software, not talking that was like a long process. So right now I would do this completely different and not shooting for such a fancy, nice, because there's no way you can, it's Apple or all those big companies. There's no way, as Neil said, to go that far and reach that quality. So smaller steps would make more sense, and you also realize your failures way faster. So if for hardware stuff, I think if you realize within 6 months or 3 months, hey, we're going down the wrong route, mechanical construction, that electronic design does not work, we have to improve, whatever. That makes a lot of sense. The other route would be to wait 2 years, spending like 2 million euros, and then realize, oh my gosh, this either does technically not work, and then you may make it to the market. But then the real fun begins, right? Because then you have the product. In my head, when I started this 8 years ago, I was like, we have to come to the market, and then it's going to be a success, which is like a very naive approach. But once you get to the market, then the real fun begins, because then you have real customers. And they do weird things. The market reacts differently. You might have different competitors. So you better learn fast and build a not so shiny Apple product, and I think you have to keep the balance, because nobody buys an ugly product, and the exception of customers is also, we wanted to be like Apple, and there's basically no acceptance that this is only a 8 people company. They actually say like, this should behave like Apple. We also want to support like Apple. We also want to have the logistics of Apple. We want to have the software and everything. And even if you explain, well, we are only 8 people, guys, I'm really sorry. And it's a third of the cost of an iPhone. So how do you think that should work out? So I don't want to complain, but I just want to make the point, a balance about being like Apple. The goal also could be, let's shoot for 70% of Apple quality, or 10% is also okay.
I mean, you brought a very important point. We had actually at our last Launchpad event in February, we had a former head of development from Porsche, and with Daimler at the time, he also talked about Tesla. He said, look, Tesla is always successful because they focus on what they're really good at, and the rest they just did like the market or a bit less than the market. So, of course, the sound of the doors is not so good. The quality impression is not as good as if you sit in a Mercedes. What they're good at is the software and the electric engine. So it's the same for you. Look, you're strong on the microphone. That's what you're really strong at. That's what you have to focus on. The rest.
I even would say we're strong at microphones, to be honest. We're a microphone company. But the comparison with Tesla, what I think Tesla is great at is actually nobody ever built a car with an over-the-air update. And, I'm in Styria, so all of my colleagues are in the automotive business, and they completely complained to Tesla about years saying, well, the leather is not so nice. Well, as you said, the building quality said, the car can do an over-the-air update. Who needs an over-the-air update? Well, you a little bit underestimate an over-the-air update, and that references back to what I said before. This is quite important because the car gets better and better. And basically, Tesla is quite good in kind of system integration. They're a bit like a big touch screen. You could maybe hate it, but nobody ever did this. But the system integration is actually quite nicely. And that the user interface, just the user interface of the big tablet in the car, evolved quite heavily over the years. So with MikeMe, I don't say we are Tesla, so we were like light years away from that. But we are actually quite good in system integration. So just making sure that for this wireless transmission, you don't need a receiver at the iPhone side, need a lot of software, hardware integration, because that's the trick. So we're quite good in how we make this to work together with the hardware. We build a really nice microphone with high quality, but there's maybe better microphone designers just from the microphone part. But most of the micro manufacturers, they undervalue the part of software and the integration into smartphones, computers, and those interfaces, and how you make it work actually. I think that's where we're really good.
And you mentioned also that you certified yourself with the Apple Bluetooth solution, right? Which
pain.
is
pain in the ass, pure pain. I hate it. We hate it, not just myself. That process is a pain in the ass. It's even harder than FCC and CE. I actually thought FCC CE is the hardest one or two. But Apple, the MFI, that you get access to the lower levels of their Bluetooth stack, you need to have it, and that was just a pain. Actually, we also did a lot of failures because our team back then was 3-4 people, so we had to cover a lot of different areas. So I remember there was an email coming from Apple saying, send the product to this office, and below the email was, and send another piece to there to certify, and we just have overseen this email because our workload was too high. That was like just introduced, I don't know, a 3 months delay, because we're waiting on an email from Apple saying where should we send it, and have overlooked that they already sent it to us. It's a very simple, like something you did wrong, but you don't really realize because you don't search, for the email you already have in your inbox. But it maybe shows clearly that with hardware you have to cover a lot of areas, and that I think that's in the beginning. I find it very challenging always to where should we put our focus, right? So is the focus industrial or mechanical construction, industrial design, product management you always need, but like how much specification, development, sourcing, marketing, sales, certification, legal, operations, financing, and it goes on. I mean, these were already 10 big areas where normally an expert, but in the beginning, I guess no hardware startup has 10 experts, because then you have like a 70, 80K run rate, a monthly burn rate, and you cannot afford in the first months unless you maybe called nothing and they have 50 million funding in the first month. Yeah. But all the others don't have that. So how do you balance that? So you have to think a lot about, okay, for the next 3 months, we have to focus on, sushi. So let's be very detailed on that area and don't look too much left or right.
Cool. One last question before we move on to add Zot to our talk. Something that I found very interesting what you did, and maybe you can also explain other startups, because you don't often see that, and I think it's a very bold but very good move sometimes. You were CEO and founder of the company and became the Chief Innovation Officer, so meaning that you have another CEO there. Describe why you did that, and what is, you can put your focus on something, or why did you do this move?
So we did this transition, or actually started already 2 years ago without knowing it. So last year we switched over, so we have a new CEO, great, and a big advancement for the team. So we also like we let some people, like half of the team is now new, and our feeling was, and my feeling was, after 6 years, 6 years is a quite long time, and this is a challenging one from a personal perspective, but also from a business perspective. And I'm an engineer by heart and also a product manager, so I'm coming very much from the product side. We were a little bit too less business orientated, sales marketing oriented. So we did all those videos, the marketing we did ourselves, just the video scene. So that's kind of okay, but the business part, the legal part, how you build a dealer network, we did kind of okay, but we've not been like super successful. So this, if you want to really succeed there, you need like a business person or a business team. So the question was, okay, how do we get there? And we really wanted to, and I wanted to have somebody who was also in the driver's seat and is coming from a business background. So I decided after 6 years, it makes a lot of sense to let somebody else drive your company, which is a pretty tough decision, I have to admit. But I'm 100% sure that it was the right decision from a personal, but also from a business.
No, I think it's really great. It's bold, but it's really great to recognize your capacity you're really good at. And for the company, I think it's a really good move. And it should also be in the head of some of the startups, because you sometimes corner yourself because you're the CEO and founder. You have to always be on top, but recognizing who's really at what work the best at it, I think is a really, really great.
Yeah, I should have decided on like 2 years earlier on. But afterwards you always know. So don't be shy, I would say, to really focus. If you're a product person, it's not. I think everyone who's doing products wants to achieve something, like purpose. Like, what do you want to build? We want to enable musicians, content creators to do better and have more content and better content. So and it doesn't really matter who's the CEO. It matters who's the CEO. But for the purpose, it doesn't matter what my title is. I try to fulfill and make that purpose. I want to make this product. I want to make the company big, and whatever is need to do so, you have to do, even if it means you have to kind of replace yourself or a step down, because the purpose is more important than your credit, like your business card and what title you have on the business card.
Perfect, Phil. Great. Thank you very much for your frank answers and for your comments. I think it's both from the product development side, but also from the startup spirit, very, very helpful for the audience and the community that is listening here, and will also listen in the future. We're recording this and have certain parts also available online later on. So we go out of the session now. Then we're going to have Zod joining us, and then we'll introduce Zod later, and then the three of us keep on going. You on the other side.
Yeah.